Just after noon Eastern on Tuesday, November 5th. Sarah, it's trade deadline day. It's election day here in the United States. It's going to be a busy one on a number of fronts. And we are closing in on, for our purposes, and of course, the purpose of this show, the NFL trade deadline, which is set for 4 p.m. Eastern. It's 12:03 Eastern right now. You can do the math. The Ravens have been relatively quiet, maybe not behind the scenes, but publicly, Sarah. And so we're going to comb through not only what the Ravens could be cooking up, but maybe most importantly, just so far, what's taken place this morning, what's taken place within the last 24 hours or so as we approach that 4 p.m. Eastern deadline. Marlon Humphrey also spoke up about his defensive coordinator, Zach Orr. We're going to comb through those thoughts, give you some injury updates on what's going to be a short week. It's going to be a war of attrition and preparation, really, and that's something that Marlon spoke about as well with the Ravens-Bengals game looming on Thursday night. Bill Belichick's All-Belichick team, if you will, and some quick hits along with some other news and notes as well. Sarah, it's great to see you today.
Good to see you. I'm trying to wear red to get into the spirit of Election Day. I know you've already done your duty and you voted. I plan on doing it expeditiously after this show today. We'll get in there and do that. So lots going on. But yeah, we're seeing lots of news about trades. What's funny, Bobby, is we're all hoping for a defensive trade, which makes you kind of forget the Ravens already made a trade before the trade deadline. It's like this morning, I was like, is Eric DeCosta not going to get a trade this year? And I'm like, wait, he already did. It was Deontay Johnson.
Yeah. Oh. He did. It came last week, to your point, and now everybody, I think, within this fan base is hoping that a second could be potentially on deck. Captain Hard weighing in with a super chat donation says, trade deadline, we need some good news. I need EDC to go in the vault and use some of those picks. And Sarah, as of right now, EDC has 11 total picks scheduled for April of 2025. Just keep that in mind going into today. Obviously, there's a monetary side of things in terms of contractual value of these players are, but another component of it is draft compensation. So that's something that they're sitting on right now. And this is what was being sat on earlier today, maybe sat on by reporters until it actually became finalized, right? Because we learned about the potential of this, the possibility of this happening last week, and that is the fact that the Cleveland Browns are sellers. Za'Darius Smith is heading to Detroit after all. According to Adam Schefter, Sarah, it's Za'Darius and a 2026 7th going to Detroit for a 2025 5th and a 2026 6th. This is a former Ravens defensive end, of course. He's got 5 sacks this season, 65 for his career. And now Detroit getting a big piece of the puzzle that they were missing these last few weeks with Aiden Hutchinson down.
This is one of the worst kept trade secrets, right? Coming into today, it seemed like Za'Darius and the Lions, on paper, they obviously make sense after Hutchinson went down. And as much as the Ravens could have used Za'Darius Smith, especially since he's been here before, they're very familiar with each other. But it always seemed unlikely that the Browns would do an in-division trade to help the Ravens out. Lots of people thought, well, maybe the Ravens are sour on him. My understanding, because of what happened last time, right? That they looked like they were re-signing him, and then last second, at least the way it was reported, is he kind of or his agency or his agent, they kind of backed out last minute. But my understanding is he has new representation. It's a different agency, so I don't know that the Ravens were really too sour about that. But nonetheless, there he goes to Detroit to go help them out. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see the Lions make it all the way to the Super Bowl as a representative for the NFC, Bobby.
Same. And they were so close. If it weren't for that second half collapse last year from being the NFC representative. And then just because we're obviously following the edge rusher position as well, here's a name that's off the board. The Broncos sent Baron Browning to the Cardinals. I believe this came down earlier today as well, Sarah, among the flurry of moves.
I think this was yesterday. Oh, okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. But one of the moves. And so that kind of makes you wonder what's going on with the Ravens. Are they, excuse me, are they in on things? There's nothing that's connecting them directly. No report that's saying that they've been in on Aziz Ojulari from the New York Jets. However, according to Diana Rossini early this morning, she said multiple teams are poking around. him, and obviously he's a pending free agent. However, the Giants, Joe Schoen, they want their price. She writes in caps, their price. Jeremy Fowler, after yesterday, he said he confirmed that the Giants have also received calls for Aziz. But he's saying that Baron Browning trade, which we just talked about, may loom large because he went to Arizona for a 6th. And then Za'Darius Smith just went to the Lions for a 5th and a 6th, but they also had to give him a 7 back. So it's kind of the market where we're at right now, kind of 5th, 6th round grades. So when they say they want their price, I mean, what are they talking? Do they want 5th round? There's no way the Ravens should do more than a 5th rounder, because for the Giants, they can sit here and be cute just like the Browns and be like, we want our price. We want our price. But what they really need to do is look at and balance what could we get in another year. Because remember, comp picks only happen, you get it a year later. So it's like, well, what could we get from Aziz in basically a year and a half from now in comp picks? And by the way, I was looking at a Giants Reddit forum, and they're like, well, we never get comp picks because they sign so many people, so it cancels people out. So they never got anything for Saquon Barkley. And there was a long, long list of guys that they never got comp picks for. So that's what they've got to weigh. Like, do we want him for the last 7 games of the season? And then wait for maybe getting a comp pick in a year and a half? Or say, do they settle for maybe a 5th rounder, maybe a 5th and a 6th if you're going closer to what Za'Darius has? But with Za'Darius, I think he had another year on his contract, right? Like he
did.
Whereas this is a 7-game rental. So the Giants can put their foot down all they want, but that's the reality of the situation. They're weighing a comp pick in a year and a half, a potential comp pick in a year and a half, versus getting something right now.
As for one of the former Ravens who's garnered some attention just in terms of maybe the possibility of a reuniting, Cole Jackson, friend of the show, YouTuber for the Ravens community for when it comes to film study, and he's an offensive line guru and analyst as well. Cole, for what it's worth, is hearing that the streets are saying there's a lot of momentum towards a reunion with interior defensive lineman Calais Campbell, who, Sarah, is now 38. He turned 38 in September. He's a current member of the Miami Dolphins. He spent last year in Atlanta, and he was in Baltimore, of course, from 2020 to 2022. He's been in the league since 2008, Sarah, and still playing, I don't know about impactful football based on what he once was, but at least somebody that, okay, he wasn't an every down guy for the Ravens towards the end of his tenure in 2022, but man, given the question marks they have right now from an interior defensive line standpoint, to the point where they had to go and call up 2 practice squad guys for last Sunday. It was Chris Wormley and Josh Tupou, and Travis Jones is banged up right now with the ankle. Michael Pierce won't be available for at least the next month on IR. They got some question marks there, and perhaps this would be indicative, if they do bring Calais back, Sarah, of what they're anticipating maybe not having for the foreseeable future there.
Right. And so just to kind of put Cole's tweet in context, obviously Cole, who's a friend of the show and a great offensive line analyst, it's not like he's Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, or Jeff Zrebex who's talking to agents, for example, or maybe somebody in the PR department of the Ravens. So this is obviously the weight to it. The streets are saying, okay, the streets being a source versus Adam Schefter talking to an agent or Jeff Zrebeck talking to the Ravens. Obviously, we put weight on those tweets differently, right? You don't put as much weight on it. I will say Cole and Spencer a while back had tweets about the potential trade with the Titans and Derrick Henry last year. And they had reports that it was the Titans that kind of pulled out last second. Those proved to be true. So again, you make of what you want of this. The streets being a source versus, an agent or something like that is very different. However, that being said, we've talked about before, Bobby, last week, how Calais would be a reasonable target for the Ravens, given the injuries they've had along the defensive line. I thought this was interesting. I went to PFF and I got their interior defensive line rankings. I did not expect to see Calais Campbell at 38 years old with the 4th best interior defensive line grade across the league. That's crazy. So at 38 years old, he's doing his thing. Now, Miami is certainly managing his stats. Like, look, if you look over to the right, Bobby, where there's the snaps column on defense.
Yeah.
The other guys that's in the top 5 are putting in way more snaps. He's at 287. The other guys in the top 5 are 342, 421, 397, and 366. So in some cases, he's like 100 snaps fewer, which is smart. Which is smart of Miami. If he came to Baltimore, he wouldn't be a 3-down guy like he used to be in his prime. But the snaps that he does give, he's clearly making an impact. In order to have the number 4 grade. And then, so, given the injuries, given his high play, and given that this will probably only cost the Ravens around $600,000, if this trade were to happen, it would be a no-brainer. I can't imagine that he would cost too much in comp picks when you're seeing other guys go for 6-rounders. To me, like a 7th rounder could maybe get this done, or something in that range. So seems like a good trade if the Ravens could pull it off. I don't think that Calais would be like this massive world beater or this massive, huge difference maker, but certainly his veteran leadership, his high impact on the snaps that he's there. And as the Ravens are trying to juggle all these injuries, it seems like it would be a smart move.
As for some other ones just around the league when it comes to in division as well, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN says that the Chicago Bears got a 7th rounder in exchange for running back Khalil Herbert to the Cincinnati Bengals. So just because, probably just notable more so than anything else, because it's week 10 and the Ravens and Bengals will have their second of 2, of course, in division matchups coming up on Thursday night. And then Sarah, on top of this, just within the last hour or so, the Cowboys acquired Jonathan Mingo and a 2025 7th rounder from the Carolina Panthers for a 2025 4th rounder. So you can bet that everybody in Dallas is freaking out right now because they wanted it to be something that was blockbuster and they haven't gotten it. And Dak Prescott's now going to be unavailable with an injury for the next few weeks. So it's disastrous time right now in the Big D down south.
One thing on the Bengals, this is crazy. I did not expect the Bengals to make a trade because this is only their 2nd in-season trade in 50+ years, Bobby.
Wow.
50 years. But Zach Moss is out indefinitely right now. And obviously the team goes as the offense goes. And so we'll see how much we might see their new former Chicago running back on Thursday. I can't imagine. I mean, you do hand the ball off, but I can't imagine he'll get too many snaps with only, let's see, I guess he'd get there today. And I can't imagine they're going to have practice tomorrow. So he might not be much of a factor Thursday night, but maybe long-term for the Bengals.
And just for everybody's bookkeeping and calendars, we do have a Bengals guest scheduled. We've had him on the show before. His name is Jay Morrison. And so at 12:30 tomorrow, that's Wednesday, we'll do our game preview episode and a number of other pieces of content because I would assume that coordinators speak today. Do we have that schedule out yet? I haven't actually looked.
Yes. Let me look it up, but I do know we have them today. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you take a look there because today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep. And of course, this is the official sleep mask partner, as you probably know by now, of us here inside the vault. And the Manta Sleep Mask Pro is what you're seeing on the screen right now. It's what both me and Sarah use. Our families use it as well. It gives you true 100% blackout for a deeper sleep. You've got C-shaped eye cups for unbeatable side sleep comfort. You've got zero pressure applied to your eyelids or lashes. It's just a comfortable wear. Advanced materials are built in with ventilation for unmatched breathability. And if you head on over to the site with us right now via the StreamYard screen share tool, you'll notice that there's more options than just the Manta Sleep Mask Pro. Apparently there's a new white noise machine, Sarah, that I'm just seeing right now. I didn't know that this was a thing, but
I
that's
definitely
cool.
need to get that for Ella.
Right?
She
White
she
noise
always
is
says that my kids love to fall asleep to the white or brown noise, I guess, is a new thing.
there is something
Or
about
maybe
white
new to me.
noise getting
Yeah.
you down quickly. So apparently that's a new feature that Manta Sleep has, courtesy of that pop up. But here you have it. Best sellers include the Manta Sleep Mask Pro, like we just showed you on the screen. The Bluetooth feature, which Sarah's kids love just because those are the sound masks and gives you just a different feature to fall asleep to. The Silk and the Sleep Masks are great OG originals as well. And the best part is if you find something you like today, moving forward ahead of the holiday season, use our discount code at checkout. That's VAULT10, VAULT10, and that'll get you 10% off your next purchase. Were you able to find the schedule?
Yeah, so there is no coordinators this week on this shortened week. However, today at 3:15, it's John Harbaugh again in the open locker room because I believe head coaches are required so many times a week. So we got John and Lamar yesterday plus open locker room, and then today John Harbaugh 3:15 with the open locker room.
Okay. Well, speaking of the open locker room,
Yeah.
that was the reason why we had a little bit of content today, just being that John and Lamar had just spoken the day prior, obviously, in their post-game press conferences. So there wasn't a ton to come from yesterday's, but there was from open locker room. And Marlon Humphrey, who has been banged up in recent weeks, but did return along with Nate Wiggins on Sunday at the bank, spoke a little bit about Zach Orr, Sarah, and that's obviously been a point of contention. There's been a lot of talk about the 32-year-old first-year play caller, whether or not he is in over his head. A lot of people pointing fingers in terms of divvying up blame. And Marlon, it's probably safe to say, Sarah, spoke out pretty significantly here.
You sure did. We always see fun and goofy Marlon, but every once in a while, especially when it's like business time in the locker room, he's a little bit more serious. And he was very serious when asked, like, if he feels like Zach Orr is shouldering too much of the blame for the Ravens' defensive woes.
I haven't seen a lot, but I do know feel like there's been some chatter. And for me as a player, knowing what's going on, I hate seeing coaches get under scrutiny when it's the player's fault. If I felt that there was, this ain't being coached this way, right? This ain't being this ain't being this. It's a little different, but it really sucks when the product we're putting out there isn't what we're being coached, isn't what we're practicing. And that's kind of what hurts me. Some of the plays I've given up, is that the coach's fault, or did we practice it this week and then I got in the game and I didn't play it exactly how it was supposed to be, and it results in a big play. And I hate how coaches get I hate how that goes, but that is the NFL. It's the person over it kind of gets whatever, but it is kind of what it is. But I hate that just because when it's your fault sometimes while somebody's getting scrutinized, that's never a good thing.
Before I get your reaction to that, Bobby, he went on and actually before that question, he talked about what they're learning as defensive backs in their room.
We've realized as players, we got to do it exactly how we're coached, exactly how we're doing it in practice to get it to go in the game. We can't practice it all week this way, we just coach this way, and then we get in the game and it's not exactly how you just practiced it. So that's been the biggest thing. We've been talking about doing your 1 of 11. So many times this year, just one guy's just not exactly where he's supposed to be, and that's where it's been hit. It's been hitting like 90%. When you watch other teams, you see people wide open here, it doesn't get hit. But for us, it's been really making us get so detailed because it seemed like every time one guy's you're supposed to be 2 yards outside the hash, you're not 2 yards outside the hash, the ball goes there. You're not inside leverage. It's been so little tiny detail that's made everybody tighten up their approach, tighten up their mindset, and really just focus to just do only your job only. And so it's been very unique from that aspect, but it makes you focus. And that's what we need.
All right, Bobby. So for me as a player, knowing what's going on, I hate seeing coaches get under scrutiny when it's the player's fault. What was your reaction?
I really like this Marlon.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was leader Marlon right there. I think that was one of the longer tenured defensive players in that room, Marlon Humphrey, of what's a young and inexperienced defensive backs room. I like that. That was refreshing. And Marlon holding himself accountable as he's currently still, even though he's missed a game, a top 3 interceptions getter through 9 weeks of football with 4 total. The leads The leaders are Xavier McKinney in Green Bay and Kirby Joseph in Detroit with 6 apiece. I mean, that talk about the humility that it takes to get in front of the microphone. And while he's holding players in general accountable, he's not above that. He's adding himself into that. And so I found this to be very refreshing. And even if there are some alignment things that he sort of alluded to there, right? Whether it's 2 yards inside the hash, not respecting inside leverage, right? Certain nuance that could fall on a Zach Orr when it comes to getting that stuff buttoned up, especially for the younger players who are in different personnel looks. I just like the way that he handled that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because you can have people in your own life where it's like you're getting blamed for something, but you don't want to throw, your friend or your family member or whoever under the bus. So you're not like, no, it's not me. I promise it's them. Like that just makes you look bad. And so you're kind of looking at your friend and you both know that it's your friend's fault. And you're like, hey, can you say something here? Like, are you going to, and there's some people that are just like back up against the wall, just like staying out of it. And then, so that I agree with you that it's like, it's leadership to be like, no, you're not going to like blame him for stuff that I'm doing wrong, that the players are doing wrong. It's our fault. Now, that being said, do I feel like Zachary Orr isn't probably going through growing pains? That Zachary Orr, I mean, he brought in Dean Pease for a reason, right? So again, I maintain my same stance I've always had. It's probably both. In order to, how to weight that, I don't know because we're not in the room. But it was interesting to me that he said we had to realize as players that we have to do exactly what the coaches are coaching us. And it's like, yeah, you think? Well,
does that suggest that there's almost some unruly behavior, right?
No, I wouldn't go that far. Unruly?
That's hyperbolic. What I mean by that is some undisciplined behavior.
Sure.
Right?
Some undisciplined play.
Some roaming.
Yeah.
A little bit of rebelliousness that's not directed at anybody specifically, but it really has to do with on-field discipline.
It could even be, Bobby, as much as, and so I'm glad that you used a different word for it, because it could be as much as like, listen, you're not Ed Reed, okay? Ed Reed is a guy that can like break the system because his instincts are so on point. There might be a couple of veterans that just like can adapt on the fly. But when you're on a new defense and you've got so many different changes and all that kind of stuff, there's just not room for that. And so, so he said it really well. He's like, so if the coach is telling you to be 2 yards inside the hash, you better be 2 yards inside the hash. Okay. Because unless Ed Reed's walking through that door, nobody gets to go outside those lines for now. Okay. For now. I mean, so that I think was interesting. What I also thought was interesting, Bobby, is he talked about the impact that Dean Pease is having. And I think towards the end, he started to say that, well, I'll just play it.
Pease coming in has been a really good help for us. I think, the knowledge he has there, and then being that Zach was already, communicating with them throughout the season, it's been really good. I think just give it a fresh set of eyes on some of the things he said. And, he's doing this for the love of the game. So that's what I really like. So I think it's only helped us, but I've really felt like, the past week or so, he's really kind of started to help out a little bit more.
It's funny because like he said, this last week, what's funny is like, I feel like Dean Pease's fingerprints were all over last week's defensive game plan, where it was, we talked about it already, like a bend but don't break. We're going to play zone. We're going to let like Bo Nix, you over and over and over again have to be perfect because we're going to let you have stuff that's in front of us. But we're not going to give you the easy over the top and gift you a touchdown. And so and in the past, that's like not typical Ravens because they're like fast and intimidating and in your face and you don't know where they're going to be and yada, yada, yada. But it suffices with the offense that you have. It's complementary football to what you have on offense right now. When the offense puts up 41 points or is averaging above 30, then it's like, fine, you can do that for now. Like give them what's in front of you and make them play perfect over and over and over again, and just wait for the moment that they slip up, and then you can be opportunistic. It's just that you have to catch those interceptions. This only works if you take advantage of the opportunities that are given to you. And so, that work, that's complementary football to the offense that you have now. But it's funny that he was like, yeah, this week is when I really felt like his impact. And he was like, yeah, we all felt it too.
Yeah, and that came with that did have some punishment that came with that, right? And we referenced these numbers in terms of coverage statistics that the Ravens gave up on Sunday. And of course, Brandon Stevens, like we mentioned on Monday's show, led the way with 8 total targets, 5 receptions, and 95 yards allowed. Kyle Hamilton just behind him at 4 targets, 4 receptions allowed for 14 yards. Marlon Humphrey in his return from that knee injury, 4 targets, 2 receptions, and 23 yards allowed. But you just noticed here, there was a lot of yards given up here, and it was sort of collectively. I mean, Brandon obviously is the outlier here up top, but Trenton Simpson here, targeted 3 times, 2 receptions, 34 yards allowed. Maulette, 3 targets, 1 reception for 5 yards allowed. Za'Darius, 2 targets, no receptions, and a pick. So a nice clean slate for Za'Darius. Wiggins, a target, 1 reception for 9 yards. And Williams, Marcus, 1 target, 2 yards. And of course, that touchdown, which was the trickery that ended up going on his plate, Sarah, when Cortland Sutton threw that freaking touchdown to Bo Nix. So,
it'll be interesting to see what the game plan is, because giving up all these yards was fine against Bo Nix as a rookie, because he did make the mistakes. He did slip up. He did miss some passes. Will that work against Joe Burrow? Marlon Humphrey made it very clear that last Cincinnati game is in the forefront of their minds.
We felt like we should have lost. I think that's what we talked about today. It's we won the game, but we did not play well. I think, especially the secondary alone. It was, like I said, it was a lot of contested catches, but big plays, too many big plays. So we're hoping to try to limit the passing attack and get going. We want to. That's the biggest thing. We've been searching. I think it's been a really good response in our room. Of as Kyle Van Noy said, he ain't finished last in nothing. So with that number being 32, that's not something we like. That's not something we want to be. And it's always a tough challenge, but I think we got the guys for the job, and we're going to keep working at it all the way up until game time, and then let it loose Thursday night. In our room, we've realized as players, we got to do it.
No, yeah, sorry, I left something there on the end, but I like it. I like it when you have a chip on your shoulder. You're ticked off. You felt like you should have lost that game. You felt like it would have been on you guys. He never mentioned that he saved the day. He wasn't trying to, pat his own back, but he did save that game. So glad to hear that they have their chip on their back. Anything else on defense before I move to Lamar?
Well, I'm glad he said that. I'm glad he said that. They were lucky. They were lucky to leave Cincinnati with a win that day.
Very lucky. And, very fortunate.
Some people might be bothered by that thought, but that was my take on it. They were lucky that they walked away from Cincinnati with that win. And now you go into a game where the last time you saw this wide receiver duo, and I know T's been banged up, but Jamar Chase torched you for 193 yards. T. Higgins gave you fits. Mike Gesicki's their tight end. He's coming off a big day this past weekend. And now this is almost desperation time for the Bengals. And we kind of felt like that the last time they played. But now the desperation, there's an uptick in that. Because for the most part, their chances of winning the division, the way the Ravens and Steelers are running the table right now, probably are very, very unlikely. They're playing for their playoff hopes right now, coming up on Thursday night. And John Harbaugh is 8-0, unbeaten, Sarah, under the primetime lights on Thursday games. But I think you wipe all that out right now when it comes to in division, how desperate this Bengals team is right now, and how phenomenal Joe Burrow is playing for them, albeit despite the defense being their Achilles heel the way it has been during Ravens losses this year.
No, you're right. I mean, oftentimes it's the more desperate team that wins it. But, as Marlon just showed, they've got their own motivation. And one thing, can you remind me, what is Lamar Jackson's record as a starter against the Bengals? What was that again?
I know it's heavily in his favor. Did he improve to 7-2 one-on-one against Burrow? And then
I'm pretty sure it's 8-1 as a starter.
Here, hold on a second. Let's see.
You just for fun today. Why don't we just look it up? No big reason why.
Let's see. He's got a 9-2 record against the Bengals in his career, and he's 5-1 against Burrow.
Well, 9-2 is that one of those is when he wasn't a starter. So it's 9-1.
9-2? Sorry, 9-1, you said?
9-1 as a starter.
Gotcha.
The other losses was when he wasn't starting. It was in 2018.
Gotcha.
He played in the game, but
the important one is 5-1 against Burrow. Head to head.
Yeah. Glad. Just wanted to look that up.
From a national perspective, that's the important one, right? Because they're often pinned against one another, and the head to head.
Oh yeah.
Lamar, owns that 5-1 so far.
Yeah,
to me, feels more notable than the. Think about when Lamar came into the league, the Bengals pre-Burrow. Oh,
woof.
Exactly like Zach Taylor's first couple of years there, horrific. So anyway, we'll get more into them tomorrow.
Petty Sarah came out. Okay, moving over to Lamar Jackson. I love this. He was asked about.
I like Petty Sarah too, by the way, for the record.
Just to be clear, I'm only petty when it comes to football. I try not to be petty in my everyday life, but
fair enough.
I don't know. I guess you would know if I'm being self-aware here. Anyway, Lamar Jackson was asked about the game slowing down, and then also his pre-snap read to Justice Hill. And you just watch his face. If you're on the video, watch his face at the end.
Game just slowing down. Me just watching film, seeing a lot of blitzes and seeing different schemes of how team holding blitzes and trying to disguise stuff from me. So me just studying the bad plays, as well. Me just studying and just memorizing everything what I'm seeing is helping the process of the game for me. Just everything just slowing down.
The wheel route to Justice yesterday before the snap, you kind of set him in motion, brought him back, ends up working down the left sideline. I mean, did you know kind of before you even snapped the ball that you had Denver's defense kind of right where you needed to?
I'll just say I knew I was going with the ball pre-snap. Yeah.
I see you're on your.
He looked in the camera, bro.
You're on your screenshot game last night.
Look at that sly grin, the evil grin. I'll just say, I knew I was going with the ball, and it was like, look in the camera and grin. Well, oh my gosh.
Let me tell you, that was a thing of beauty, regardless whether or not he knew. It was so stinking beautiful. A great hookup from Lamar to Justice. And as we've been talking about, this touch, this finesse, this loft, this beautiful lofting of the football to a running back who has found himself not just as a complementary piece, but as somebody who has really been impactful for them, whether he has the ball in his hands or not. And I hope that continues when Keaton Mitchell comes back. I hope that they're able to keep Justice involved.
Oh, for sure. And then also, Bobby, as we're talking about some of his sweet throws, I didn't see this during the game, but go back and watch. When he hit Zay Flowers the first time in the end zone, it was not the 53-yarder. I think it was a 7-yarder. Lamar was feeling himself because after he threw it, it was like he was in basketball and he just shot a 3 and he had that follow through.
Yeah.
He had that follow through. He threw that to Zay and he just like kept it, like just the follow through. Like, yeah, that's right. It's like when you put up a 3 and it feels so sweet coming out of your hands and it's going to be nothing but net and you're already walking down the court the other side. You hold it up. That was Lamar on that play when he threw it to Zay. It was just like, oh, that is a touchdown. And he was just feeling it in his fingers.
Yep.
Oh, so sweet.
How could you not? It was buttery.
Anyway, more on Lamar. I'm sure many of you have seen the video of when that young little girl with her mom, they wrote that sign that said, Lamar Jackson, I made a friendship bracelet for you. So he goes over there and he grabs it and he puts it on. And in return, he gives her his cap, right? The whole Ravens kind of like winter snow cap hat. And the girl was excited. I think her mom was more excited, but that for sure would have been me. Like if I was there with Ella, I for sure would have been more excited than her. Anyway, Lamar was asked, or one of the reporters noticed a day later at the Monday press conference, he still has on the friendship bracelet, Bobby. So,
Yeah, this is
and
awesome.
he's asked about it. He's like, well, I just like the bracelet, to be honest with you. He's like, I took it off to shower and stuff, but before I came in today, I put it back on. It's a dope gift. And then he kind of was like, appreciate you, kind of like sending love back out. So just love that side of Lamar. Very, very kind of heartwarming.
Such a simple gesture, yet those two
Yeah.
are going to be, whether her daughter remembers it based on how young she is or not, her mom's going to be able to tell her about it for years and years to come. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Let's get to some super chats. BG Method says, Bobby, you should get Zim, aka Winston-Addy, on here to talk Ravens-Bengals. I don't think we are trading for anyone today. Great IO and timely D wins the Super Bowl. What is it? Interior offensive lineman? What is IO? Great. Man,
Yeah.
timely defense wins the Super Bowl, but great IO. BG, can you clarify that? Maybe we're just having a brain fart here. Jang says, any recommendations on a chill pill this Thursday night? Also, the Vault is now officially my gym partner, LFG Ravens. Well, I hope you're having a great workout, Jang. And
That's
a chill
awesome.
pill. Recommendations for a chill pill this Thursday night? You talking about like a place to hang? Or like
I just didn't know if her nerves were like, is there a way I can like chill out a little bit? Like not
want a gummy or
have
something?
so many
What Trayvon says, do you think Trayvon Walker or game record like Jeffrey Simmons would be a good trade fit? I sent a more detailed email to the Vault.
Oh,
We
did he?
appreciate that.
Did he?
We'll have to take a look.
Is Trayvon Walker available?
I don't know about that one. And all I can think about when it comes to Jeffrey Simmons is the fact that he allegedly, in Marshall Yanda's last game, spat in his face. And Marshall got up at the post-game press conference and ripped him.
Oh,
I mean, he ripped Simmons.
I remember that. Now, but didn't Simmons also, like when he was a free agent, didn't he like go on a show in England and like straight up say he wanted to be a Raven? Is that the same guy? Do you remember that?
I missed that one. Jang
very
says for the nerves.
I found
your nerves.
I found your email, Trayvon. He's very similar to Clowney, and he's still on a rookie contract. And call me crazy, but Ingraven brought up the name Jeffrey Simmons. I feel like he would be the ultimate game wrecker. He would command a double team, and it would free up Rowe in the run game. Let me just look up. So I don't know that Trayvon Walker is available. And I think he's in his third year of his rookie contract.
Oh, yeah.
So that if he
live
wanted
chat's
fourth
helping you
year,
out with the England one. They say that, and that's just jogging my memory. It's Ndamukong.
Oh, it was. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, I got the two mixed up. Thank you.
By the way, I'm tripping over what IO is. Can somebody help us out here? What is IO?
Nobody knows.
Like Luke thinks it's in my opinion, but it's not. That's IMO.
Right.
So what's IO? John Parsons says IO is a moon of Jupiter. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's talked about that as a. Okay. Well.
Reveal says the offensive and defensive line covered the bad pass defense.
Jeffrey Simmons is not coming to Baltimore. I'm looking at his contract.
Yeah. I don't think it's a fit anyway.
He's in the second year of 5-year contract. And his base salary for next year is 17.5. Then it goes to 20. Then it goes to 23 million.
Think about it too. If Tennessee wouldn't trade Derrick Henry to Baltimore before last year's deadline, they're probably not going to do it again when it comes to a key piece of their defensive puzzle.
All right.
Ingraven just tweeted that he was watching Adam Schefter, and Shefty mentioned. Sorry, I just want to read this before I read it aloud, just to make sure that. Oh, okay. Schefter named the Ravens as one of the teams that could be interested in Marshon Lattimore, who's a Saints corner, and clearly the Saints can be are sellers right now, having lost 7 in a row.
Well, if that's the case, then you could I mean, if you were to get him, then you could move one of your corners to safety.
Sure.
Plus, by the way, is Marshon Lattimore? I want to look at his contract. because Brandon Stevens is on the last year of his contract, and I mean, I guess he could be re-signed, but I wouldn't put the likelihood very high.
Reveal says the offense and deep. Thanks for the super chats, guys. And obviously, we're doing a little bit of on the fly research here, just because the trade deadline. That's what comes with it. But Reveal says the offense and defensive line covered the bad pass defense. Now with T. Brown and does he mean Travis Jones? I think you mean Travis Jones. Reveal and Michael Pierce's injuries. No pushes up the middle at all. It's certainly been a concern. BG Method says I don't know how the I got in there. Great offense. Okay, BG clarifies that IO meant to just read O.
Oh, okay.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Lattimore, by the way, I mean, next year it would be 16 million and then 16.5.
Now, why don't we do this too? A little bit of on the fly work here, because
could do a new deal.
There is now a clip to go along with the Marshon Lattimore report.
Oh, let's hear it.
From Adam Schefter. And as we continue to work on the fly on this trade deadline Tuesday, here's Adam Schefter.
Can't hear that.
Never mind.
Can you do a screen share?
Stand by. I just want to make sure that we're safe to share this. And we are.
In case there's any football over it.
And here it comes.
Okay. All right.
Life of a YouTuber.
I don't think it's a secret. The name to watch this afternoon, would be Marshon Lattimore. That's the one to watch here in the next 3.5 hours.
Go ahead, D-Bud.
Shefty, any what potential partners? I know you just got a text there. Commanders. I know Ravens could use some help on the back end. Who can afford and who will make that move for Marshon?
Well, you said the Commanders. You said the Ravens. The Chiefs have been linked. I've heard the Chargers out there. I think there are about 4 potential bidders. And here's my takeaway on all this, right? The Saints fired their head coach yesterday. They've got to basically address their salary cap issues. They've got a cornerback who obviously is in demand. They're going to need more draft picks. And so if you're the Saints right now and you can get somebody to pay your price for Marshon Lattimore, a 4-time Pro Bowl cornerback, why would you not entertain that?
What is that, a third? Is that a third rounder?
I think it's at least that, Pat, but that you're going to be right in the ballpark.
Okay, sounds like a deal is maybe already done.
Wow.
Is the deal close? How close is the deal done?
No. What I'm saying is I think there are active talks to get something done. And, again, I don't think you go down this road at this point and then not get something done. That's my opinion, right? If they're this far advanced in talks with this many people and there's this much interest, usually the teams move ahead and act. They don't say, you know what? Thank you, everybody, for being on the phone with us all day and coming up with these. We're going to hold on. We decided to hold on to the guy. If you're opening up the talks and taking bids and in discussions, usually you finish it off.
Adam Schefter, ESPN insider, weighing in just a few short minutes ago on the Pat McAfee show, saying that Marshon Lattimore, Sarah, is a name to watch today and one of the many teams that could potentially be at least interested or is interested at this time would be the Ravens. So cornerback.
Yeah, this is more like, this would be more of a classic kind of Eric DaCosta move where it's like a good player is available that usually isn't.
But it's not the biggest need.
It's not the biggest need, but it's like whatever, you take good players like when they're available. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so Lattimore right now, looking at PFF, he's ranked number 32. That's on a team that's failing. He's probably, a bit better than that. You might want to redo his contract. I mean, it's $16 million for the next 2 years after this. You would say goodbye to Brandon Stevens for sure. You wouldn't be re-signing Brandon Stevens. But you could, because you have a plethora of corners, you now have flexibility to maybe move Stevens to safety. I guess you could also flirt with Marlon doing that, but Marlon's the number 4 ranked corner. He's excellent at nickel, but you have so much flexibility. So it would more be like you take a good player when a good player happens to be available.
You got Wiggins on the luxury of being on the rookie deal on top of that. To your point, you let Brandon walk this upcoming free agency, but maybe transition, maybe use him, like you said, at safety down the second half stretch and try and win a Super Bowl with that. And then you're going to pay Kyle here in the next year or so, you would think, which will be a record, like a market reset. And then a bunch of other guys that are in there, like Jalen Armour Davis is, his future in Baltimore obviously is not set in stone in the slightest. You've got rookies in Sanusi Kane and Bo Braid at the safety position that are going to be there. Maulet's sort of your 1 year, like you can sign him to like a 1 year deal, probably the next couple if you want to, relatively easily. More folks weighing in via Super Chat donations today as we inch closer and closer to the deadline. We thought this might happen, Sarah, with something coming up, at least whether it's substantive or not. There was a report in there, so we're kind of pivoting here. We do have other content to get to, which we will. But Robert says we need to grab Aziz Ojulari. Bo Nix had almost 5 seconds on a majority of his dropbacks. The lack of a pass rush is giving receivers too much time to get open. We've seen that for several weeks now, whether it was Bo, whether it was Jameis, Sarah, or whether it was Baker. Stevens Dempsey says if the Ravens trade for 1 to 2 players, who gets released? Be whoever's at the back end of the roster there. They would not make active anymore on the 53. Let's see. Where do we want to head to next?
Well, so we'll see. We'll see if anything ever comes of that. We'll see. We've got 3 hours and 10 minutes to the deadline. So all very interesting. Who knows how much of this is like last minute posturing, this and that. Okay, where to next? Should we just do quickly the injury report from yesterday? The good news is Marlon Humphrey wasn't even on there. Remember, he was dealing with that knee. So he's not on there. Some other stuff here. So Rashina Lee, who's been almost a permanent fixture on here, he was limited with an ankle. Jalen Armour Davis, limited, but back. Travis Jones, limited. Isaiah Likely did not practice with a hamstring. I'll get comments just a second from John Harbaugh on that. Patrick McCary, he was full, but they listed him with the shoulder. Keaton Mitchell, full. Brent Urban still out with that concussion. So he did not play at all. Tylan Wallace limited with a foot, and then Broderick Washington has a knee, but he was full. So not the worst in the world in terms of injury report, but obviously you want to check in on Likely. Lamar did that jump pass to Likely in the end zone. I mean, you definitely want in a shootout, you would like to have your big bodied tight end who can act like a wide receiver. John Harbaugh didn't give much information on it. He just confirmed that he is dealing with a hamstring, and he was non-committal about whether he'd play on Thursday. So that would be a loss. In terms of Travis Jones, we've talked about that he was active on Sunday, but didn't play any snaps. And Harbaugh said that they had a maximum snap number for him in mind, but because they ended up playing so well with the 41-10 winning game, he was like, okay, we didn't even need to risk putting him in. So he could have played. They had plans for him to play, but didn't use him. So that gave him extra time to heal up with that ankle, which he absolutely needs. And the Ravens need him as close to 100. He's not going to be 100. Ankles can be, these sprains can be bad. They can limit you for a long time. So they are going to need him against Joe Burrow.
And speaking of need and necessity, certainly not what they once needed based on their running back room last year with the shot in the arm that Keaton Mitchell gave them a year ago. But at the same time, Keaton is in the middle of course, that 21-day activation window, Sarah, and maybe, just maybe, Thursday becomes the day that he's officially activated off of the PUP list, physically unable to perform. It was just 10 months ago, really 11 months ago now, because it was December of 2023 that he tore his ACL. And so, as you tweeted, Harbs was asked about juggling roster spots for another running back in Keaton Mitchell. And I guess we were, in a sense, just asked about this by Stevens. There's always ways to shuffle it around. And John Harbaugh made it clear they're going to find that way. Quote, that's part of it. But with Keaton, it's more about him being ready. We'll make the roster spots work for Keaton. All right. There's a chance that he plays. Yeah, we're going to make it work. So, yeah.
It'd be cool. It'd be really cool if he came out Thursday night against the Bengals, who have no tape on whatever they want to use him for. I mean, they have tape from before, but not tape with Derrick Henry. And remember last week, Lamar Jackson was like, I was like, he's looking fast. Like, he's hitting that corner. So it'd be really cool if he had a debut Thursday night against the Bengals and you could, pull out something new against the Bengals that they may not be prepared for.
Sarah,
if he's ready.
One note, not to backtrack, but just one note on the Marshon Lattimore conversation,
Mhm.
just because things are fluid right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Jordan Schultz, who's an NFL insider, says that according to his sources, the Saints have been seeking a day 2 draft pick for 2025. So April 2025
Some kind of
in
third rounder, maybe.
in exchange for Lattimore.
Yeah, that's kind of what Schefter was alluding to.
Schultz thinks that New Orleans should be able to get that today. And he says that the Commanders have been heavily involved and Washington's believed to have the most ammunition. So just Schefter was kind of, he had kind of hit on some of that, but that just came down the timeline. So we're keeping it nice and fresh. And here is the Bengals injury perspective as of Monday. Orlando Brown and T. Higgins are the ones to watch here,
Mm-hmm.
just being that they were both DNP. But I
And
believe
then Geno
Zach Taylor
was limited. But
Geno was limited. Zach Taylor, their head coach, had this to say. Both of those guys obviously want to play on Thursday, meaning T. Higgins and Orlando Brown. But they have to get them through the week dealing with trainers to see if they're capable. So on a short week, not sure how much you're actually going to know in terms of until the actual game statuses come out, just because of how condensed things are these next couple days. But those are obviously two key contributors to their offense.
Absolutely. Have a big impact. Big impact. Okay, should we transition over to Bill Belichick?
And one more
some
super
of his
chat
thoughts.
donation as well.
Sure. Let's do that
Brandon
first.
says, it doesn't matter how great our corners are if you cannot rush the passer. EDC better not be unserious about getting a pass rusher. Coming up on the 3-hour countdown, Sarah, to the 4 p.m. Eastern deadline, and we'll be following it closely. What you got on Belichick?
Okay, so Bill Belichick on his show, this was actually right before Sunday's games, so prior to when the Ravens beat the Broncos. But he and his crew on his podcast put together an all Belichick team, and they went at quarterback. They had 3 guys that they were considering to pick one of the 3, and they had Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff, and Patrick Mahomes. They acknowledged that Patrick hasn't been playing to the same standards, but always figures out how to make those plays, as he did again last night, which I'm sure we'll review at the end here. But out of the 3, Bill Belichick and his crew, they took Lamar Jackson as the top guy. Here are their comments.
Jackson has been dynamic for Baltimore, throwing and running. You know, we often think of him as a quarterback that likes to one look and go, but as Jim Schwartz, who played against him last week, said, the defensive coordinator of the Browns, he's no longer that. He's really good from the pocket, making all the throws, and this offense is explosive. Well, we ended up with a guy that have 2 plays in a huddle every time he plays and makes a play. It's the play that they called, and then when the play breaks down, he makes another play. It's called Lamar Jackson, and I think he's really hard to defend. I watched him last week against Cleveland, and if it was 2-hand touch, I'm not sure the Browns would have got him on the ground. He was really remarkable. He escaped like Harry Houdini. But I think what happens with Lamar is you can't game plan for him. You know, you talk about it all the time. You both do. Rush lanes, rush lanes, rush lanes. But somehow he breaks.
Let me remove that. I'm sorry. I thought I put a screen grab over that part. Don't want to get dinged with copyright problems, so we'll end that. But you got where they were going on it. Bill Belichick, later in the show, they did a segment for they were choosing their team captains for their all Belichick team, and they were talking about how they wanted to get somebody that has great leadership, and Bill Belichick chose Lamar Jackson again for his team captain. He said he's a quiet leader, but all players follow him. They're always watching him. And they don't do an MVP, but when Bill Belichick was on the Pat McAfee show, he said if he had done an MVP, you know who he would have picked. And what, you got something?
Just to put a bow on the Marshon Lattimore conversation, he's heading to Washington. Commanders have Marshon Lattimore. That happened quickly.
Very
quickly. 4-time Pro Bowl corner that the Ravens were rumored to at least have been somewhat interested in is heading to the Washington Commanders.
Well, happy stays in the NFC. Happy didn't end up against a an AFC rival. So, okay, good update on that. Thank you, Bobby. But anyway, back to Bill Belichick and who he would have chosen for midseason MVP.
On my All-Belichick team, I made him the first half MVP. We didn't have MVPs, but he would have been my first half of the season MVP.
Okay, hey.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
His leadership's been great. He's been a great playmaker. I mean, without them, I don't think they're nearly the same team as they are with them, but he's having a fantastic season and taking much better care of the ball. And really, I think, has stepped up his leadership this year to a very high level.
He's been saying
A lot
that
of praise.
He's been saying that for weeks.
He's been saying that for weeks. He's like, remember how we could never stop praising Ed Reed? And by the way, he brings him up almost like every show.
Yeah.
Like his respect for Lamar is clearly off the charts. Clearly off the charts. I mean, you're choosing him as your MVP. You're choosing him as the number one quarterback on your All-Belichick team. And out of all the amazing people that you got on your All-Belichick team, you're choosing Lamar as your captain.
How about his perspective
it's so many levels. What's that?
How about his perspective on the defensive side of the ball?
Let's see let me see. Oh, but real quick, they did running backs and tight ends on this picture. None of the Ravens tight ends even cracked the top 3. I think we know why. They're certainly capable, but they just haven't been able to be featured with how everything's working. But they whittled the running backs down to 2, Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. They ended up picking Saquon, just barely edging him out. On defense, check this out. At linebackers, on outside linebackers, they had Kyle Van Noy, number 2. So giving a lot of love there. And then in linebackers, they whittled it down to 3 with Roquan Smith, Fred Warner, and Zaire Franklin. They ended up picking Fred Warner as their top guy. So I don't know if Roquan was 2 or 3. Obviously, Roquan has been under fire, but according to Bill Belichick and his crew, they have him as the top 3 inside linebacker.
Yeah. Yeah, Rowe's been under fire just for how he's dealt with the pass. Rowe in the run game, he's an old school thumper. You know where he's going to be, but he's looked slow at times defending tight ends, and the middle part of that field has been soft here and there. And it's just you're not used to seeing Roquan a half step behind a play. And that's what it's been at times. And so clearly, though, still, when it comes to the ability to stop the run, the physicality, the old school physicality that he brings to this team, that's never going to change for 0.
Nope. I think we made it to quick hits, Bobby.
Beautiful. You have one more clip here, though, of Belichick on the Ravens.
I was going to get to that after the Chiefs, once we talk about the Chiefs.
Okay, and will we ever? Will we ever? Because, scared money don't make no money. And my gosh, what the heck were they doing last night? We'll get to that in just a second. The way that the Chiefs beat the Bucs last night was hard to watch, just based on the decision making there down the stretch that Todd Bowles and company made. But Zay Flowers is on a heck of a run right now, Sarah. He's got,
on fire.
Since week 5, 496 receiving yards, ranks first across the league. 232 yards after the catch, ranks first across the league. And here's where he is.
It's crazy because he's on a phenomenal run since week 5. Like they're showing he's first in both those categories since week 5. But he's still number 5 overall in terms of receiving yards for the entire season.
654 overall. Justin Jefferson leads the way at 783. Jamar Chase, 717. Garrett Wilson, 663. And CD, 660. Zay's
Bobby,
right there.
Is there a better... I haven't thought much about this. Is there a better quarterback, running back, wide receiver trio in the league?
A quarterback, wide receiver, running back trio.
Trio.
I mean, based on what they did on Sunday.
Maybe you could talk about Philly because they got Saquon and
AJ Brown and Jalen.
AJ Brown and Jalen, but obviously Lamar's way better.
And AJ's hurt right now. So, and then when healthy, Brock, CMC, and Debo obviously are ridiculous. Or you could do Brock, CMC, and Ayuk, but Ayuk is down. So in terms of overall health, yeah.
What about
right
Lions?
now, Detroit's got some dogs. Definitely. But I think you still put, well, they got Amon-Ra St. Brown. They've got Jared Goff and then David Montgomery at back. They got Jahmyr Gibbs there as well. So they got depth. But yeah, the Ravens absolutely should be in that conversation. But I think it's obviously San Francisco when they're at full health. I think we could probably all agree on that.
Yeah, we're talking about right now, 9 weeks into the season. It's just, I just sometimes I pinch myself because this is so not what we're used to in Baltimore. It's like the defense might have the best trio of quarterback, running back, and wide receiver one.
Yeah. Think about it. Kansas City would have something to say when Isaiah Pacheco is back to full health at back. You got Mahomes, Pacheco, Kelsey.
No, that's a tight end.
Hopkins. Well, right. But
Hopkins isn't beating Zay Flowers right now. And Pacheco isn't beating Henry.
Not right now, but DeAndre showed last night, we'll get to that in just a bit, that he ain't done yet.
He's not done, sure. But come on now.
He ain't done yet. How about the highest graded passers from Sunday? Lamar and Joe Burrow, who will meet on Thursday, of course. 93.3 for Lamar, according to PFF. Burrow, 89.7, had a 5-touchdown performance day. So, yeah, the Bengals are flying high offensively right now. But again, their Achilles heel has been the defense, and they could not stop the Ravens, and the Ravens couldn't stop them defensively.
I know.
A few weeks back. We all know that. That's not groundbreaking whatsoever. And then just some scheduling stuff. The NFL announced that the Ravens at Steelers game, which is set for November 17th, will not be flexed. It remains at 1:00, and the Bengals and Chargers are instead being flexed to Sunday Night Football. So selfishly, I like that.
Yeah, but also I think the Steelers were like the next Thursday night game, so I don't think they were going to put Steelers back to back Thursday night, or you know what I mean, from Sunday night to Thursday night.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Couple notes there. Projections for the division. Ravens still lead the way according to ESPN's Football Power Index, 63.4%. Pittsburgh at 33.4%, despite having a 6-2 overall record. They had their bye week this past weekend. Cincy, 3.1% at 4-5. The Ravens can really sink their hopes once and for all if they're not already on Thursday night. And the Browns, yeah, I mean, the number speaks for itself. 0.1%.
They're selling right now. That tells you everything. Steelers, this will be interesting. Steelers play Commanders on Sunday. That's 1:00. That'll be a fun game to watch.
And Washington.
Come on, Daniels. Go and show them that you're the rookie of the year. Come on, Daniels.
Washington definitely just got better, too,
with Lattimore.
Yes, they did. And is there compensation yet here in a 5 or a 3, 4? No, not yet in terms of the pre. Oh, here it is. Yeah, the Saints are getting a 3rd rounder and more for Marshon Lattimore. So Commanders were willing to spend big key defensive piece there for Jaden Williams and company. Dafe Owe showing off the new alternate helmet that the Ravens will don on Thursday night. 8:15 kickoff.
I don't know why I don't get too into like the uniform combinations. I know a lot of other people do. I do like it when there's a blackout, but I am excited for this with the new helmet.
Yeah, it's a slick design.
Yeah,
they were showing them off the other day at practice last week, so we'll see.
It'll be fun. All right.
Here's a team that remains unbeaten. Kansas City Chiefs held on, Sarah, last night. 30-24 was the final. Monday Night Football in overtime. Chiefs improved to 8-0. Bucks slipped to 4-5. And Sarah, I can't get over the fact that on a rainy, foggy evening at Arrowhead, you've got Kansas City on the ropes, meaning you go 10 plays, 71 yards over less than 2 minutes. A great 2-minute drill there executed by Baker Mayfield and company. You've got 27 seconds on the clock, and you choose to kick an extra point to tie it up and force overtime instead of going for 2. And then you're putting essentially your fate in a coin flip, which goes in Kansas City's favor. They get the ball and it's over.
Yeah.
It's like Todd Bowles, scared money don't make no money. What are we doing here?
What are we doing you're in Kansas City? It's a coin flip. And it's Patrick Mahomes on the other side, who it doesn't matter if he's having a great season or a bad season. The Kansas City Chiefs always finish. Go for 2.
Come on, man. That is fear. That's fear. And the Ravens were.
Ravens are about to go for 2 before
in early September. Had Isaiah's toe made it inside that line, made it inside the end zone, you better believe John Harbaugh was going for it.
Oh, we already saw them. They were already lining up for it. And then they had a
should've.
replay of the toe.
Exactly.
Here's the thing, like, you can steamroll people all you want. Like, all that matters is that you finish. Just finish. There's nobody that finishes better. You know how national shows always ask like questions like, who's the biggest threat?
Who's the biggest threat? Who's
the biggest threat? Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, the Ravens already lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. And so you have to put an asterisk on this. This is who they discussed it this morning. NFL Monday Morning Football. And Peter Schrager was making this point. He's like, it's for sure the Ravens are the biggest threat if they play like the Ravens. Like, if the Ravens that played, the Broncos or the Bills or the Bucks, if those Ravens show up, they can beat the Chiefs. But they don't show up like that, which brings me back to this other clip that I had from Bill Belichick, which this is maybe the 3rd time he said it, but it just makes it so true when we're discussing who's the biggest threat to the Chiefs.
I think the Ravens are really, really good. I honestly don't think they've lost a game this year. The games they've lost, I think they, kind of, I don't say gave away, but they lost them more than somebody else won them. And I think the biggest phone for the Ravens is the Ravens. If they can just, do the things that they do well and do them consistently, they'll be great. But they've had some certainly a lot of trouble on defense, through the course of the season, particularly in the passing game. They've had some turnovers where they, drop the ball and kick it around and lose it, and it's just stuff like that. Just mistakes that they shouldn't make. It's not caused by the other team; it's really caused by them. And so, if they can just clean that up, they're going to be really hard to beat.
It's just so true.
Well, you know what needs to be cleaned up?
My kitchen? Actually, my kitchen's actually pretty clean right now. I don't know.
I love when I just throw out these open-ended questions and expect you to be like lockstep with me. What needs to be cleaned up is the way that officiating, for whatever reason, allows Jawan Taylor, which has been happening since week 1, their right tackle, to jump early without being called.
Oh, bro.
I don't understand why he consistently is allowed to jump early. And
it makes me more angry because of how often the Ravens got called for it in week 1. On the one of the Chiefs touchdowns, he was like, homeboy was like, he left that line, had a sip of the Gatorade, and then they hiked the ball. Like, what? Why he gets away with that, I do not know.
It makes you angry because, to your point, not only how it happened and how unbalanced the evaluation of it was, or the way that they handled it from an officiating standpoint on opening night, enforced it, I think is the right word. But the impact that it had on the game in what came down to a toe. That's what makes you frustrated. And here it is, they come out and speak on the fact that, essentially like they needed to fix that right there. Like John Harbaugh almost alluded to that he wasn't concerned after speaking with the league after that night because they're going to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they may have eased up and gotten it right for the Ravens moving forward, but for whatever reason, Kansas City still lives with it outside of that rule system. So that's a tough look. And it's so obvious on the TV screen. It comes across as so obvious. I know it's not as easy and as obvious and as clear cut maybe on the field level, but man, it is egregious. And it's over. We're 2 months into the season. Literally 2 months today.
I know.
The Ravens and Chiefs opened up September 5th. 2 months from today. and he's still getting
and
away with
still
it.
getting away with it. Also, Patrick Mahomes had an injury scare in that. He
did.
he already had he's already rolled his ankle, and the way it was non-contact, but he kind of like landed awkwardly on it when he was throwing that touchdown pass, and he was on the ground. He needed help, all that kind of stuff. Then all of a sudden, like, you come back from commercial break and he's like running around on the sideline, and I'm like, what the heck, dude? But my honest instant reaction was, please get up and be okay. Because,
for sure.
Because I don't know what's going to happen with the Ravens, but you know for a fact that if the Ravens went to the Super Bowl with Patrick Mahomes injured, it'd be one more goalpost. Yeah, Lamar won a Super Bowl. But you had to do it when Patrick Mahomes was down. And I do not want to leave any room for that. I don't just want the Ravens to go to the Super Bowl. I want the Ravens to go to the Super Bowl by going through the Chiefs. I want it. I need it.
He needs to remain available. He must remain available.
Yes.
James Lee Wiley, a couple super chat donations here have just popped in the last few minutes, says if they had gone for 2 with all the time left, Mahomes would have got them in field goal range. Maybe at 27 seconds. Decent point, but still at least put the pressure on him.
Right.
When you leave it up to a coin flip, I just have a hard time with that. The Righteous Gentleman says the pass rush last game was layered purposefully. Asmodeus says Pickens versus Lattimore, hoping we make a move. Well, Lattimore, unfortunately,
by the way,
already.
It was a lot more than a third.
There's more. There's more than that. Yeah.
There was more. Somebody in the chats had it on here, but I didn't start it.
This was probably, I think, what's up, Asmodeus? You're the man of the week, by the way. Everybody's talking about you, Mr. Wingman. Truth Bearer, I think these have all come in. Oh, okay, yeah, they just came in. But anyway, Truth says no Lattimore to the Chiefs. We just clinched a ring. Brandon says it doesn't matter how great our corners are if you cannot rush the passer. EDC better not be unserious about getting a pass rusher.
Yeah, we did that one.
Are fully caught up to speed.
Yeah.
You had a message that you wanted to share based on something that Lamar spoke about?
Yeah, so listen, listen, obviously Lamar and I share the same faith, but on Sunday, which we didn't get a chance to show, but he once again showed his faith once again. And I've been thinking about it all week, and I had time last night. So I was like, you know what? Lamar's been very consistent about his faith. And I feel like, and I get it, right? Because faith can be controversial and all that kind of stuff. But we cover these guys to the nth degree. And we talk about everything about their lives, but their faith is sometimes avoided. And I don't want to do that. Because to me, it's very clear, Bobby, whether it's on Twitter or Instagram or in his press conferences or whatever, his faith is his primary motivation. It's what drives him. It's what allows him to overcome the noise. It's what, helped him in his early life when, he experienced a lot of loss. And now that he's riding high with millions in a contract and 2-time MVP, it's what keeps, in his words, it's what keeps him humble. And so I was just like, you know what? We just talk about Lamar on so many different levels. Why can't we cover his faith since it's such a primary driver? So I put together about 2-minute clip of him sharing his faith. And so we're at the end of the show. If you don't want to listen to this, feel free to jump off. We will talk about Bobby's dating life afterwards. So we are now transitioning from football, and we're going to get into Lamar's faith and then Bobby's dating life. And so you are free to go if you don't want to hear these things. But here's Lamar over the years professing his faith.
Yo, this crazy right now for me, man. Oh, snap. I'm shaking right now. I got to get my speech up. First and foremost, though, before I go further along with my speech, I want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Without him, none of us would be here right now tonight. I want to thank God. First and foremost, before I even say anything, because he's the reason I'm here now. First and foremost, I want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Without him, nothing is possible. I don't really got nothing to say, man. First and foremost, I do got something to say. I want to thank God. I want to thank God. God, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. That's why we having so much success. That's the one that's leading us, throughout these games and week in, week out. The toughest part of my journey, I really don't know, because of my faith. Just knowing God with me through whatever I'm going through, I just put my trust in Him and just pretty much go with the flow. So I really don't have pressure or I'll be overthinking anything.
Is there something or someone that keeps you humble in your life?
The Lord. I give Him all His praise, the glory, the honor, because without Him, I could have been doing anything, Like, it's crazy, I be thinking about it, talking to Him throughout the day, like, man, appreciate you, I thank you. Because you feel like you're bigger than the Lord, that's when all that success it go away. You got to let Him know, like, He the reason you having that much success. So I appreciate that from Him. And I got my family around me, my teammates, great teammates, coaching staff. We just got to keep it going and let the Lord know He the number one.
So, Bobby, just to give some context to that, and I totally get why people say this. I saw it in the chat, and other people say it. Like, they say, well, God doesn't care if you win a football game, because obviously there's somebody else on the other side. Are you saying that God doesn't want them to win a football game? So I just want to say something about that. Like, gratitude is not something that you show once things go well. So what, in my view, Lamar Jackson is demonstrating is that he's not showing gratitude for his circumstances. He's showing gratitude in his circumstances, which means you show gratitude no matter what. And so what that type of gratitude does is that type of gratitude helps you. It's transformative. Let me put it that way. It's transformative. When your heart is full of gratitude, you cannot be bitter. You cannot be resentful. You can't be mean-spirited because you're too full of gratitude. When you're full of gratitude, it's a sign of faith. So when things are not going well, like I didn't show it in there, but in one of those speeches, he said that he lost his dad and his grandmother on the same day. When you're full of gratitude toward a higher being, you're saying, I have faith that you're going to use this moment for good in the long run. When you're showing gratitude, and no matter what the circumstance, you're following the example of Jesus Christ, who said on the cross, not my will, but thy will be done. When you're showing gratitude, you move from being fearful to becoming fearless. When you're showing gratitude and you're saying God is number one, that helps you transcend noise. When you're showing gratitude, you're saying I'm bigger than the bad things that happen to me. So I get what people are saying, that they're like, oh, is he saying that, God wanted me to win a football game over somebody else? No. What you're saying is that I am nothing without you, but I'm everything with you. No matter what goes on, I'm showing faith. Whether it's the day my dad and grandma died on the same day, or whether it's the day I signed a $250 million contract. It's finding that gratitude shows your faith in him. And I think that's really what he's trying to symbolize there.
I think the way you put together the video based on the live chats that I've been seeing, regardless of whether or not you're driven by faith, I think a lot of people were moved by that. So I appreciate you putting the effort in to do that in the message today. Asmodeus weighs in as well, saying Lamar's faith in God is why he's so humble every day. And man, that went back years too, that you went and found Lamar weighing in and sharing some things that are important to him from that side of his life. And hey, since the second I met you too, faith, family, and football in that order has been in your bio. So is it still in there?
It's still in there.
It's still in there. Faith, family, and football.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
the
maybe
Steelers just made a move, by the way.
Wide receiver?
Yes, they did.
Of course.
The Steelers got their wide receiver. They are trading a 2025 fifth rounder to the Jets for Mike Williams. So Mike Williams is on his way out of New York and heading to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Probably needed a change. He's been under fire there for a little bit, and obviously the Jets are a lot less stable than things are right now in Pittsburgh. So
we transition to some lighter things?
Sure.
How did your FaceTime go with Madison last night?
Well, rumor has it that this show is being highly watched and that my words will be no.
You mean by Madison herself, her whole family, her friends, all of it?
I think all the above. So I had a nice FaceTime with Sunday's new tailgate friend of mine that, of course, has garnered a lot of attention. And the YouTube video itself that we played yesterday, the comments are just hysterical. There's a lot of buy-in right now. There's a lot of it, heavily invested subscribers of ours, Sarah, that want the gist of what's going on. But yeah, so we had a chance to catch up, I think, for probably close to an hour or maybe over an hour on FaceTime. And, definitely have a lot in common. And I think we'll probably be looking to meet up at some point here. So I guess we'll see when that is, where that is, and all along those lines. She's a little bit younger than me. She's 23, but you'd never know it. She's got a little bit of a old soul nature to her, I guess, other than the dancing on the tables. But yeah, no, I think she's cool. What other questions do you have about it? I'm happy to ask.
The tone has definitely changed from the last times we've talked. The energy, I should say. So, so either one of two things is happening, or both things are happening. Yeah. Number one, you might be a bad storyteller again. And number two, now that it's become offline, you want to be more respectful of it.
Yeah, probably the latter. Yeah. But like, if you have questions or the live chat has questions, I'm happy to answer some.
Okay. Well, I do have questions. Yeah, and feel free. Okay, since you invited them, because I was going to be respectful and not. And anything that I ask that you're like, okay, I don't want to share that part.
Yeah, it'll be simple. It'll be like, hey, Sarah, we're going to do that the second I press end stream, or I'm just going to divvy it up. Okay. So, Robbie thinks I'm blushing. Look at Robbie driving super chats in here. Look at how Bobby's smiling. I'm just trying to be respectful. That's all.
My shoe has been untied this whole time, and now it's really starting to bother me. Okay, got it.
By the way, I think Asmodeus being the shoe tie. Asmodeus is funny because obviously he was the one that went and played wingman. But I think who deserves a little bit of love for this as well is Madison's friend Caitlin, who was in town as well. So I think these two equally deserve shout outs. I believe she was maybe in on it a little bit more than I thought when Asmodeus went over and had those conversations.
Aha.
So.
Okay. So was Caitlin a part of this FaceTime at all?
No. Okay. No. You know what's funny though? At one point, Madison's mom FaceTimed while we were FaceTiming.
Oh, she FaceTimed Madison.
Yeah. I go, do you want to merge in?
Oh boy.
Well, we might as well just merge her in. And she's like, no, I'm not doing that. And then like 2 minutes later, my mom FaceTimes. I'm like, should I merge her in? We didn't do that either.
Well, what's funny, apparently Madison's listening. Bobby's really good with parents. Like anytime my parents are in town, Bobby will like just chat with them for like ever. I'm like, all right, guys, let's wrap this up. You're awesome, very easy to talk to.
They're easy. They're the best. Those two are. I love their generation so much.
Yeah.
Not a fan says, happy for you, Bobby. You work hard, bro. You deserve a snuggle buddy. Snuggle buddy. What's your plan for the next date, bro? You're turning pink.
That's the next question. Like, is there a plan between you and Madison? Like, how'd you guys leave it?
All right. So verbatim, here's what I told her, so she lives outside Nashville. Apparently she's getting a puppy on Friday. So that obviously decreases mobility. Or flexibility.
Okay. Yep.
Her parents aren't far from her, so maybe that she can lean on them. But my mom comes to town tomorrow morning for 9 days. Have a wedding this weekend, and then bye week I'm going to be in Sweden and Norway, as I've mentioned. And then the holidays are obviously in between the bye week or I guess Thanksgiving's between the bye week and this upcoming weekend with my mom being in town. And so it'll just be a busy time. I mean, I'm not ruling it out whatsoever to fly her to Baltimore if she wants to come. In terms of me going to Nashville, I think that might be a little bit trickier. Maybe something could be snuck in at some point between Thanksgiving and Christmas. But yeah, there's nothing concrete in play right now. I mean, I really just wanted to do a FaceTime to see like if we enjoyed each other as much as we did for 10 minutes. In a tailgate environment with alcohol involved, the cigar involved, and like 700 plus people that were watching it, enjoying it. Like, I wanted to see if there was anything more, and I would say that those questions were answered. I felt like there was a little bit something there.
Okay.
At one point we pull up the channel, the video, and we start, scrolling through the comments, and we're both just laughing our butts off at the comments.
So she was still fun. Like,
we we were both laughing. We were laughing
That's
at these
awesome.
comments, and I'm like reading them, and I'm like reading them off the top. So
her fun personality was more than like any of us, right? If we were like at a tailgate and we're having fun, a football game, you're traveling there, and like any of us would be in a great mood. But she was still showing that fun side.
yes,
When she's back in the groove of things back home.
yeah, I would say so.
We're
coming up on 90 too. This is hilarious.
Did you guys? I
coming
know.
up on 90.
Maybe just 2 more minutes because I do got to go vote before the lines get crazy.
Good.
Okay, so did you guys chat about seeing each other, like any travel, anything like that? Like even like in passing, like, oh yeah, you got to come down to Nashville. Nothing like that.
Yeah. I think there were
Okay.
certain comments made from her that suggested that something should be done. Maybe,
Okay.
whether it's me down there or, I think towards the end, she said something along the lines of that up here would be cool. What's kind of cool is like, and again, I don't want to like go too deep into, I just want to be respectful of her family and whatnot, but her father travels for work and I don't know what he does. I haven't gone down that road yet, but he has a place in Baltimore.
Oh.
Which is interesting because it's just hilarious that if she's listening to this, Madison, how you doing? But like, it's nice that if he does have a place and she does want to come up and visit me, that for a first date, I don't have to be like, hey, here's my guest room.
Sure. Yeah, that would be.
And maybe she feels more comfortable just like hanging at his place if she wants to come up for a weekend. So yeah, there's nothing set in
If you
stone.
got to do long distance, knowing that she would have a place to stay in the city in which you live, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there's like some cool inroads here, whether it's the fact that her best friend that was at the tailgate, her father, I know him randomly through my Loyola days, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some fun layers to this, and I hope everybody's enjoying the storytelling that I'm. Oh, here goes Asmodeus. Asmodeus says, "I'll be at the Be More Around Town tailgate Thursday. We can talk more about what happened from my perspective then."
Awesome.
Oh, that's hilarious. And along those lines, I'll just throw this out there.
Bachelor Bobby and Wingman Asmodeus.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'll just throw this out there, and we got to go because it's 1:30 and you got to vote. She wants to come on the show Thursday night.
Wait.
It was my suggestion, and she was open to it.
Wait,
and
post game or pregame?
Pregame.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If we want to do a vault segment, maybe we do it on like a midweek slow day.
Well, we'll do a vault segment
for a minute.
Here's my feeling.
Okay.
I feel like when somebody hits girlfriend status, they come on the vault.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay, but otherwise, fun status, Bobby Baltimore page.
I like that. Setting expectations.
So
That's
like
cool.
you got to graduate into the vault. You know what I mean?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. What was I
I'm not
mention?
saying she can't come on. I'm just saying it'll be fun to have layers.
You want to build this thing
I
up.
would like to meet her.
Yeah.
I'll come on your show if you want. I would like to meet her.
You're just trying to get me You're trying to get me wifed. Look at you. This is hilarious.
I'm trying to put goals into your life.
This is what you've wanted all along.
Listen, as entertaining as your dating life has been for me, literally from the moment, because remember, we met right after you had just broken up with like a long-term girlfriend. And so I've only known you as single. So,
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally. Yeah. When we met,
you were down back then.
We didn't talk about dating life last night, so she's about to learn this for the first time. But yeah,
no,
you're good. July of 2022 is when we started our show.
Yeah.
And I guess May, 2 months prior was my only real relationship that went south. Brian Me says, move back a few spots for DJ. Pit a 5 for just MV. I have no idea what any of this is. MW, DJ. There's initials that we should probably know off the top of our heads, but I'm just not.
Johnson. So he's saying the Ravens only had to move back a few spots for Deontay Johnson, but Pittsburgh had to give up a 5 for, who did they get again? Mike Williams.
Okay.
So he's saying Ravens got the better deal.
I got you. Thank you. Gosh, what would I do without you? Live chat's funny, man. You guys are funny. Troy says Bobby's a good guy and good guys finish last. There are many times in life that's
so
the
not
case,
true.
Troy.
That is so
but-
not true. I feel
well,
like my husband's a good guy.
Sometimes I do believe in
Like
today's
he-
society, Sarah, and with my generation, there are many times when it comes to dating that I would agree with him on that. But that means you don't have the right person.
But there's sometimes guys that profess that they're good guys. And so it's like, if you're a good guy, you don't need to profess it. I'm not really buying that. I think those are like whiny guys. I'm such a good
You
guy.
guys are hilarious. This live chat boy is something.
Do you feel
else.
like you finished last?
No, but I'm just saying, I think that sentiment has been felt at times between me and my friend group when it comes
No, I'm not buying it. Sorry, I'm not buying it. I'm sure with some girls that might be true, because there are girls that are like, hey, I like the bad boy.
Exactly.
I guess the reason why I'm not totally buying it is because I was never attracted to the bad guy. Never.
You are what we're all looking for.
Like, but do you think I'm unique, or do you feel like I feel like girls are looking for good guys?
Q wants us to get back to football. This is great.
Hey Q, we're in hour 30. You need to understand, after hour 15, that's when things change. Okay.
I think Q's realizing right now that if we don't get a golf round scheduled for pre-Thanksgiving, he's not going to know anything about my life the way that this is changing and the way this thing's going at this rapid rate. Oh, Q, we appreciate you for being here as always. Douglas and Guy Conger, thank you for the support that you give us through Patreon.
222 is with me. It's the guys that profess to be good guys. They think they're the good guys.
Okay.
I'm with you. 222 with the sunflower.
Oh man, 90 plus minutes. Where's Trez logging?
Luke's right. I keep telling you this. Luke says go to church if you want to find a girlfriend. Come on, I can hook you up with a nice LDS girl, Bobby.
You always tell me that. That's not. You know what?
You want to convert?
Screw it. Yeah. See you, Catholicism. I'm out.
No. I'm messing with you, obviously.
Douglas and Guy Conger, we appreciate you guys. Thank you for the support that you give us through Patreon. We appreciate you being a part of the Vault Patreon community. And if you guys are interested in doing so, Steelers are going to take on the remainder of Mike Williams' contract for this season. He'll become a free agent at season's end. Just whenever Schefter's name comes up, I tend to look at it. So,
wait, I got to say one more thing on the chat. Chat says church only got old people, Sarah. Now that's generally true. Here's what people don't know about my church. They have, so real quick, we are assigned, kind of like school. You're like assigned to your school based off of your boundaries of where you live. Same thing with my church. They kind of just assign you of where you go. We call them wards. Okay. But between the ages of 18 to whatever, if you're single, they actually have singles wards. And so that's where I met my husband. Is I gave, remember I told you a couple weeks ago, I gave a talk at church and Trevor was in the audience. So it was at a singles ward. And so DC has a ton of them. Baltimore's is a little bit smaller, but I can't believe I met my husband there. But I'm just like, let me just send you down to DC. Go to one of those LDS single wards, and like I'm telling you, you would find a ton of great girls that are not looking for a bad guy.
Well, let's let this play out first.
Okay.
You know?
Oh yeah, Madison. My bad. Madison's still in the picture.
Madison's like, who's this Sarah chick that you work with? No, it's all good. All good fun.
I'm saying let's go full speed with Madison. But if it happened, didn't work out, and I hope it does. But if it didn't, I'm just saying that's another avenue.
This is becoming quite the segment. I hope you guys are appreciating it. This is unreal. Douglas, Guy, I'm trying to give you your shout outs. You're getting 3 of them today. All right. That's just where we're at. No, you're good. And who knows? It may not be the last that you hear of us today because of the deadline approaching, and maybe, just maybe, the Ravens being very sly and quiet right now with their activity as we approach the 4 p.m. Eastern deadline. So with that, thank you to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this episode. Thanks to my co-host and partner, Sarah Ellison, for all of you do. Appreciate the fun that and the way that you guys are humoring us here with our various topics towards the end of football. I think we're fully caught up. No, we're not. Truth Bearer says, you're unique, Sarah. Most women have daddy issues.
Oh boy.
Asmodeus says, I can help you with that too. LOL, I got LDS ties.
Boom! Man, I feel like I need to meet Asmodeus.
Richard is literally like...
Wait, is Richard Asmodeus?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think he's a cold-blooded killer in the best of ways. This guy,
What
he
does
just
that
knows what
mean?
the
What
guy's
does
just
that
got.
mean?
He
He's a cold-blooded killer in the best of ways.
I just think this guy is so savvy. That's what I mean by that. He's
Oh,
just so
okay.
savvy. The guy's got like a port in every storm. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
anyway,
I like it.
could be storm.
Well, Maurice, have you ever been described that way before? A cold-blooded killer in the best of ways.
This is getting absolutely unhinged.
Gee,
and
we're
that
in minute
means-
93. We got 98. We got to end this thing.
Oh, we got to go. You guys are the best. All 4,100 concurrents right now. If you're in the YouTube space, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're coming up on that 20,000 subscription milestone. It would be great if you could help us get there at some point soon. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily live content, which is not always solely based on Ravens football. And for Sarah, I'm Bobby, signing off from this Tuesday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream edition. Tomorrow, we'll start to take a close look at Thursday night. Jay Morrison, for the Bengals perspective, joins us at 12:30 Eastern. So thanks to Manta Sleep. Thanks to all of you. And as always, we appreciate you guys for being with us here inside the vault. We'll talk soon.